You guys peeping the fashion? I love the Signa. That Signa is so good. I really love it. Came out great. Anyways, Haalvu time. Everyone and their mother will make a video about this, me included. It's a new weapon. It's a weapon everyone got for free. Everyone wants to know how to build this. And it's honestly a pretty interesting weapon. It's one of the more interesting weapons we have got in the recent years and the way it works and everything. Before I actually do something about it, right? Before I show you anything, I will go to the simulacrum. Because today, I want to go through the builds from the last one to the first one. And I want to show you the main build that I used last. And feel free to use the timestamps if you want to skip directly to it. But there is something about this weapon that makes me question a lot of things and made me lose my mind yesterday on stream. So, in case you guys don't know, Jade Star's an ability, you know, whatever. Everybody's been using it. It's really good on Wisp with the shock mode build that I'm using right now. In case you don't know, this is my build. I'm pretty much using it all the time now. I'm loving it. So, and you know, here is 3 builds, and now we have a third build here, which is called Jade Star's Prime. So, this is the only weapon that can force sentient damage onto enemies. From me testing it and from other people testing it, we figured out that the sentient damage doesn't work on anything, like literally anything but this weapon. So, if you prime someone with sentient, and then you put out a different weapon, for some reason, this Tau damage increase doesn't actually work for other weapons, so if you try to put status effects on others, they won't be, you know, more vulnerable to status by 100%. So it is what it is. However, there is an exception for some reason, and that's Jade Stars. And I'm not sure why. I tried literally everything. I tried any type of ability. I tried coded as weapon ability. I tried other weapons, secondary weapons, melee weapons, anything you can think of. But no, it's literally just Jade Stars out of the entire game. And I have genuinely no idea why. Anyways, as you can see, if I sit this guy, Jade Stars attacking him, he takes 5, 10, 15, you know, 19, whatever. He takes 4 to 5 stacks every time we press Jade Stars. So far so good. Let's reset ourselves by changing weapons and reset the dude as well, so we get a new guy. Now we will do the same thing, however this time we will start and we will prime this guy with the 10 sentient stacks. 5, 10. Okay, so now we have 10 sentient stacks. So now we see 9, 18, 27, 36, 44, 53, 62. Now the sentient stacks are down, and we're back to 67. Now, it's back to increasing itself by 5 every time instead of by 9 every time. Why the hell does the Tau damage from the Haalvu actually work with Jade Stars? I am not sure, but to conclude this build, this goofy up build that I made right here, this plays into the unique trait of the weapon, where if you swap to the alternate fire of this weapon, the barrels of it turn into mini drones that shoot with the weapon. If you're too far away, they will just shoot in the direction you're shooting. The actual weapon is not shooting, only the drones are shooting, but if you get closer enough, you will see at some point that the drones actually start homing into the enemy on their own. And if I hit them, they will start shooting the enemy. This can headshot, although it's not guaranteed for the headshot. But as you can see, because of the insanely high status chance of the alt fire and the fact that they just, you know, auto-target enemies, you're getting quite a lot of priming onto this guy. So yeah, the final idea of the build is that I'm using the Wisp build with the Haalvu, and just straight up running through the field on an exterminate mission, let's say, and just shooting the Haalvu while we're running through the field, and that should kill most of the enemies very, very quickly. Normally, I would have a pet with mecha set with me, so I can do even more damage, but this is literally without mecha set, and it's dealing this much, and you're seeing like 280 hit procs onto these guys. So yes, it is quite powerful. It is quite powerful on how strong this is. unironically. So yes, if you have a Warframe that you use Jade Star Zone, this Haalvu build will unironically help it quite a ton until maybe they fix the interaction between Jade Stars and this. I'm not sure if it's intentional. If it's not, and they do fix it, do expect to see a pinned comment. Like, check the comments. If you see a pinned comment by me saying that it's fixed, then you will know. Otherwise, we're fine. We can still use this just fine like that. Now, let's get out of the sim, go to actual missions, and check what this weapon has to offer us in terms of normal build variety. I just wanted to show the Jade Stars thing because I think it's interesting. I think other people won't really think about it or test it. And, like, I don't understand why it's the only ability that works with this. It doesn't make any sense. On other stuff, we have a build focused around both firing modes using primary Crux, and then we have a build focused around the primary fire mode mainly using primary Deadhead. So the primary Crux one, we're using a rank 0 Malignant Force to force the viral to be as low as possible. Here it's a bit lower than the heat damage. Ideally, you could get a Riven mode for this weapon, although Riven modes are extremely expensive right now. I really tried. I opened all my rifle Rivens to get like an unranked viral Riven, so I can put unranked viral here, and then maybe put thermite rounds here so we get even more heat damage, and that would make this weapon really strong with this build, like extremely strong with this build. But unfortunately, I wasn't lucky enough to do that. So we're left with this. This is still really strong, and this is a hybrid build. You can use both primary and alt fire on this one. Galvanized scope, you know, this is for the primary fire, but if you want to do alt fire only, you can probably replace this for either vigilante mode for more multi-shot, or again thermite rounds for the extra heat damage right here, and that should be absolutely fine. I'm using hammer shot, so I'm gonna use galvanized scope so I can take advantage of the high base crit chance of the primary fire if I ever want to use it, and generally it felt really good this way. I tried a lot of builds on this weapon because this was a very interesting weapon. I tried both. What the no, I'm on a public squad. Fuck. Anyways, as I was saying, nice ass fashion. As I was saying, I was trying both accuracy and multi-shot and everything. Accuracy was pretty decent, but multi-shot, because of the high amount of fire rate, decent stats, multi-shot was just way better. And there is also an issue with accuracy that I will show you in mission that makes it a bit weaker than multi-shot, which makes the weapon kinda inaccurate and kinda hard to hit headshots with consistently. So I think multi-shot all the way on this one, especially because the alternate fire will headshot completely randomly and not consistently. So you see how this weapon has like a circle in the front, the circle is pattern? If you actually shoot with a circle is pattern, you will see that instead of the bullets going in a straight line, they actually make a circle all the time in front. Like, you can see it really well if I actually increase the fire rate. And this is not because of recoil, this is just how the primary fire looks. If you have the alt fire and you're just shooting the alt fire directly, then, you know, that fixes itself, obviously, but it's not really viable. At some point, your alt fire will just straight up go ahead and lock in onto an enemy. But yeah, as you can see, the enemy health bar immediately becomes grey upon shooting an enemy because of the amount of hit procs and Tau status, making them take an extreme amount of damage. And of course, we can also abuse Jade Stars to put even more hit procs onto the enemy and do even more funny stuff. And then the alt fire, you know, you can kind of just shoot through the enemies. Of course, because of primary Crux, you can also shoot for it a lot, which is the main reason I'm using primary Crux on this. The greatest thing about this weapon is definitely the reload mechanic and how quickly it recharges. Actually, reloading this weapon sadly doesn't provide anything, just a cool sentient noise from what I'm understanding. But in general, yeah, very cool stuff. I can imagine people using this build rather with something like a Zaku and Mirage, you know, Siren, everything that you can probably imagine that you would like to use something like this on, you can probably go ahead and use it. I'm sure a lot of people will be having fun with this weapon and a build like this on Warframes that already deal with enemies in an AoE, because this is just another sort of brain dead way to do that. And even like this, the base fire rate is still fine. You don't really need the whiz fire rate. Right now, you're saying we use the base fire rate of the weapon. As you can see, it's still pretty decent. Not the best, but not the worst. Oh, shit. But yeah, in general, it's actually quite good. It's actually quite good. Obviously, if you start the mission directly with the Altfire without having stacks of Galvanized Aptitude, then it's not gonna be as good. But once you get the 2 kills you need for the stacks of Galvanized Aptitude to start working, this actually doesn't do too bad. As you can see, like 300 heat procs there on that guy, when including Jade stars as well. It was really hard, in my opinion. Really love it. Really decent heat procs onto the enemies with the Altfire. Can even force some crits if you use the Altfire while aiming, because you're getting galvanized stacks. As you can see, I just stacked 1 stack on galvanized scope right there by just doing that. 2 stacks now. You know, hitting headshots with this is completely random, but the times that you do hit headshots, you actually stack stuff with it. So you could even do primary Deadhead on this and stack it, but I just prefer Crux for the extra ammo efficiency. It's really useful when the ammo goes down so quickly on the Altfire, but yeah. The primary fire is also pretty good with this build, as you can see. Quite a bit of damage when shooting. That was without Jade Stars too, so less hit procs than what could have been. Jade Stars is also, I can say Jade Stars is one of the best abilities to use for Hidden Herod. If your Warframe doesn't actually do damage directly, you can use Jade Stars and a Hidden Herod weapon. And Jade Stars starts one-shotting on its own by just you priming someone. In general, and the ability is quite strong. I'm surprised it hasn't been nerfed yet, to be honest. But it has a lot of potential as an ability on its own. And it's kind of sad that it's better on pretty much every Warframe except Sirius and Orion. Like, how does that even happen? It is truly sad. But hey, I'm sure at some point we will get an arcane for Sirius and Orion that will make them quite busted, and then we will call it a day. Or maybe even an augment. We should be fine. I tried Sirius and Orion. I tried to make them like as best as I could, and honestly I did manage to get a decent build, but I kind of wanted to make them useful with their own kits, and my build subsumed pyrotechnics onto their 4 and abused the fact that the black hole groups in a really weird way, and pyrotechnics plus Jade Stars. So yeah, I could get like close to 200 heat procs every time I casted pyrotechnics and a Jade Star started flying onto the enemy. And that dealt a lot of damage, yeah, but obviously I would love to have their 4th ability be my main damage ability. So, Acolyte time. As you can see with Crux build, not a lot of damage. Kind of expected with this, to be honest. I didn't expect anything else because Crux is not really meant to deal with the Acolytes. The Deadhead build is actually doing a lot better versus Acolytes when you do that. And yeah, it is what it is. This one is more of a build that you would use alongside your nuke frame or alongside your Jade Stars primary frame, something like that, and you would kind of just go crazy with it. But in general, this isn't so bad. I kind of like it, and I like the fact that this build utilizes both firing modes as well. Like it's equally good on both firing modes. So regardless of which firing mode you like, which I'm personally a fan of the regular firing mode and not the drones, you can actually use this pretty efficiently. You can do a lot of cool things with this. So that is really great. That is really great. Moving on. we're gonna take a look this time at the primary Deadhead build of the video, which is kinda similar, not exactly the same, but kinda similar. This time we're using straight up viral with no heat, max damage as possible, magnetic in there for the extra magnetic electricity procs, and obviously to take care of the overguard really quickly from enemies, triple galvanize modes, and just straight up as much damage as possible. Vigilante mode here actually makes a ton of difference. Like, the difference between orange and red crits on this weapon is astronomical, so I do recommend you guys try Vigilante mode, at least on this weapon, if you do go for like a max weapon. If you like the Haalvu, you want to max it out, you want to use it more, then yes, Vigilante mode makes a huge difference on it. I definitely recommend it. But overall, it is pretty decent on its own. It's not like the greatest weapon ever, of course, but it is an interesting weapon. It is a weapon that has a very unique mechanic of having only sentient damage and nothing else. That also kind of weighs it down, because without IPS damage, we're not stacking galvanized aptitude easily, which means we have to mod a lot of elements on it. But, you know, it is what it is. It's still overall quite powerful, so I don't really mind. Even without the Mecha Dope, the Jade Star's Wisp build is kind of one-shotting things on its own also. Yeah. Alright, bro. Regardless though, the damage is actually quite nice in this build. I'm not sure how it will do against the Acolyte. I haven't actually tried it against the Acolyte. I imagine it will do way better than the primary Crux build. But overall, this isn't a weapon with really high base damage, sadly, and it also doesn't have IPSs to boost that base damage with galvanized aptitude, as I said before. So you really need to work on it in order to get some decent damage onto the builds. Tried it with Roar on the Simulacrum for some of the builds, and Roar seems to be the best way to buff this weapon's damage. Blast damage sadly does nothing because of its low base damage, and even with, you know, Zara and Blast, that still doesn't help much, sadly. But Viral did wonders. I tried Viral Electric too, Viral Heat, like anything. I think Viral Heat is working the best, definitely, for the Crux build, and straight up Viral Magnetic is the best here because you don't really miss on the electric probes, so you can actually get them the moment you hit an enemy that's actually gonna need them for you to kill them, like overguarded enemies. So you should be fine with both of these builds. They are overall really powerful. The weapon itself is, yeah, some pretty decent, like, rifle weapon, LMG rifle weapon, infinite ammo, feels really good to use. In terms of damage, it does okay, like, especially against Heximus units. As you can see, the damage kind of shows itself here, and you can see that it's not bad. There are way better rifles than this if you want to just straight up look at power, but it is pretty cool as a weapon because of the infinite ammo. Feels really nice to use. You pretty much never run out of ammo with it. You never, like, truly hold down -1. There won't be enough enemies on your screen at all times. So you essentially have a rifle with infinite ammo and a pretty decent DPS to come up with. The Altfire is kind of a disappointment. I've really needed to work with it to actually make it, like, do anything. I don't feel like it scales really well either, but the primary fire is good. The primary fire is actually quite nice. And there is a weird thing about the primary fire. So this is like, this is supposedly a hit scan weapon, right? So I click and it hits, obviously. But there is an issue. This isn't actually a hit scan weapon. If you reach a certain range, like if the enemy is far enough away from you, you actually turn it into a projectile instead. And the projectile is kind of slow too. And you will notice this on those corpus tile sets that bring the dropships. I killed myself. I, in fact, one-shotted myself with it. And I even dodged to try and dodge the bubble, but the bubble was late for some reason. Fuck my life. Incredible. Thank you, Malice. I shot one bullet and I killed myself. I love it. You love to see it. I thought I dodged the bubble. It is what it is. Skill issued on my part. Oh, I guess we won't see how it does on the Acolyte, but I imagine it's pretty good. Damage is nice, so I imagine it will do pretty good on the Acolyte, especially because this one is crit based and not status based like the other one. But yeah, I think the recent weapons, they have been careful with how strong the weapons are, which I do appreciate on the one hand, but on the other hand, they would really need to like balance the other weapons to be on the same power as these weapons, because these weapons do feel good to use. Their power feels like good enough to, when you invest, you know, they actually take care of everything, as opposed to some weapons being outright so strong that you just shoot them and the enemy dies, or you know, you press alt fire and the enemy dies, etc, etc. This one is a good balance of, you know, you have a bullet hose and it actually deals pretty decent damage, it ramps up, etc, etc. And I kind of like it. I kind of like the power level where it's at. But comparison to the rest of the weapons and things that we have in the game right now, it is quite weak. But I still think like its power level is in a good spot, if that makes sense. Like if you were to balance the game in a way that makes sense, the power of this weapon would make sense. Like as a new weapon, it should be powerful enough to feel good, but not so overpowered. However, in comparison to other weapons that we already have, this is quite weak. If I compare the primary fire of this weapon to the primary fire of the Stalta will just decimate this. It deals like 5 times as much DPS. Like, not even exaggerating, like 5, maybe even 6 times as much DPS. It's just not even close. But in terms of how the weapon looks, how it feels to use, and its uniqueness, I say this is like a really decent piece of engineering. Also, your Warframe calls it kind of weird. Wait, can we go back to that? Go back. Thank you. So, where is your hand going, girl? How are you holding it like this? Your hand clips through the weapon. I feel like she's supposed to hold it from down here, not up here, but who am I to judge? Who am I to judge? You know, I don't know. I don't even know how this weapon is supposed to work, and these are supposed to come out anyway, so I guess that makes sense, but like, yeah. In general, this is still a really cool weapon, and overall, I think if I were to use this weapon more, especially in the build that I'm going for right now, I would probably choose this build for now. But if I were to use this weapon just for the weapon, just to feel like how strong the weapon is, then I would probably go for this build. This one is just a funny build for Jade stars priming and all that, and I think it has its issues, but it also has its magic, kinda. Like, you know, you have good status chance here. You might have only magnetic, viral, sentient, but because of how the build date works, you also have cold, electric, and toxin, and then you get heat from Jade stars. That's kind of the idea. It does end up being like pretty decent, but yeah, it's still a bit weird that it only works with Jade stars. I'm not sure how they did that or why they did that. How does Jade stars even work? How is it coded? Like, it's not coded as a weapon because it doesn't take into account Vigorous Swope or Arcane Arachne or anything like that, but it does get buffed from another weapon that only buffs Jade stars and nothing else, and it also gets buffed from Nourish. Like, if you have Nourish on your team and you use Jade stars, you get viral procs. So how is this ability coded? Is it coded as a companion? Is it coded as a weapon? How is this ability coded? What have we done with this ability? I am genuinely so confused. Anyways, if you guys try the sentient damage and find any other interactions that might work with the sentient damage, please do let me know in the comments below, because I literally tried like 3 coded as weapon abilities, 2 regular abilities, and some other weapons, and none of them worked. Only Jade stars worked. So I'm not sure what's going on with that. All in all, weapon pool. I like it. Thank you very much for watching another video of mine, and I will see you on the next one.